Hello, my awesome PMP geeks. You're getting ready for the PMP exam and you click this video because you're wondering how it can add value to you. So let me add some value to you. You know your PMP exam is not based on any PMBOK guide, not the 6th, not the 7th. It's not even based on the Agile Practice Guide. So what exactly is the PMP exam based on? It's based on the PMP Exam Content Outline. Now, if you've taken a look at the outline, you probably hit the very first of the domains and you take a look and you say, my goodness, manage conflict. Who in their right mind begins a project by managing conflict, except they're in a Jekyll and Hyde situation? So the problem here is these things are not in logical order. It's already troublesome enough to wonder, what will my exam be based on? You take a look at this thing and you say, people, process, business, but where does agile and all that stuff come in? So it's already complicated enough, right? So let's make it simple. Your exam is going to be based on people, process, business across hybrid and agile and predictive. Now, the content outline itself is not in logical order of occurrence. Let me help you with that. This is how it should happen. It should first of all start off, for example, with building a team. After building a team, you set ground rules, you lead the team, you build a shared understanding, you ensure that team members and stakeholders are adequately trained, you mentor relevant stakeholders, and you empower team members and stakeholders. You get involved in managing conflict all the way down here. You see, you don't manage conflict first. There's a set of things that happens before. So just excuse the haphazard order of this content outline. But then we get into engaging and supporting virtual teams. That's big right now, right? In the event of the crazy COVID, almost everyone is in a virtual team somewhere or in a blended team. We collaborate with stakeholders, address and remove impediments, obstacles, and blockers for the team. We support team performance. We promote team performance through the application of EI, and we negotiate project agreements. This is the flow. You get it? It makes sense. Now, as you get ready for your exam, you want to begin to dig into each one of these tasks. You want to hit manage conflict. You want to understand what does it entail to manage conflict. So we talk about the enablers. Interpret the source and stage of the conflict, analyze the context for the conflict, and evaluate, recommend, and reconcile the appropriate conflict resolution solution. You need to think about this not only in an agile fashion, but a predictive fashion. That's the mindset. Then you need to get into the details of what exactly does it mean to assess conflict and resolve conflict. So we talk about different approaches. You could compromise or reconcile. You could force or direct, collaborate or problem solve, withdraw or avoid, and accommodate or smooth. And we get into the details. Do you understand where this is going? For each one of those items that I showed you in the outline, you're going to get people, break it down, understand what exactly is under the hood of each one of those tasks. You're going to do the same for process, and you're going to do the same for business. Now, to help you do this, we've put together a curriculum. It's called the PMP Exam Immersion course. It's an immersion. We immerse you deep into the world of project management, but not just project management, PMP aimed project management. So we're tackling all the content from a predictive lens, a hybrid lens, and an agile lens. You see, this course is available to you. If you wanted to sign up for it, just go on down to the website hpmexam.com. HPM is really code for hybrid project management because it's really a hybrid project management exam when you boil it down, all right? hpmexam.com. And you can actually sign up this weekend on Sunday. We are starting off with the immersion all over again. It's 4 hours. It's no nonsense. It gets straight into the heart of it. If you want to be a part of this, go on down to hpmexam.com. It's a half-day boot camp. And I must tell you, there are no boot camps like this out there. No one's got a half-day boot camp where they're teaching you hybrid, agile, predictive, and the entire outline and Scrum and the PMBOK guide. So what are you waiting for? Go on down to hpmexam.com and let's get on this journey to success. You're going to be extremely glad you did. I've got graduates from this class that have gotten certified in the past few weeks, and you might have seen them on this channel. So this is just the beginning of the story. You know, the people piece is just one piece of the puzzle. We also need to talk about the process piece. Now, I wish I could tell you something different. I can't. It's the same story, right? The way the process piece is arranged. Let's go into the outline and take a look. It says execute the project with urgency. Now, come on now. Who in their right mind begins to execute a project immediately without some sort of planning? Even in the world of hardcore agile, we're still going to plan, my friends. So this is not the best order of things. It's not execute the project, then manage communications. No, no, no. There's a better way of thinking about what happens. And you know what it is? It is starting off with the big question: what is the methodology that we're going to use? So determine the appropriate project methodology, methods and practices, establish the project governance structure. What is governance? It's the framework in which authority is exercised. Not a bad word. So in the world of Agile, we also think about things like this, right? A self-organizing, self-led, self-managed team, right? We integrate project planning activities. We plan and manage everything from phase closures and transitions, the project itself. We plan and manage scope, schedule, budget, and resources. We plan and manage quality of products and deliverables. We assess and manage risks. And I know exactly what you're thinking. You're thinking the 6th edition. What about the 6th edition? Isn't this 6th edition stuff? And I have to be perfectly honest with you, a lot of this stuff is 6th edition stuff. Now let's zoom into risk. People saying you can get by in the risk topic without the 6th, they're pretty mistaken. Why? Because the 6th gives you 7 discrete things that need to be done, and they're all valuable. Now, the PMI tells you there's one that's optional, it's quantitative, but everything else needs to be done. You see the narrative? You do need to understand what's in the 6th to really firm up your chances of success, in my humble opinion. Now, talking about 7th edition, do you truly believe you can get by with risk in just the 7th? No, you cannot. And you shouldn't even attempt it. In my mind, you really need to know everything from plan risk management, identify risk, do your qualitative, do your quantitative, plan risk responses, implement the responses, and then monitor risk. You need to be able to do all of those things and think about them, right? Planning the responses, implementing the responses, that's big. Then monitoring the risks is big. Then all the 4 things you do in plan, you got to do them. In this training, my friends, we cover everything. All right, so don't miss a beat. Go on down to hpmexam.com because we're going to get this exam under control. The exam can be very unruly, and I often say you need an experienced animal handler. You need your buddy Phil, because I will handle the exam for you. I will take care of that exam for you. We will make sure that we relocate the exam out of your way, out of mischief, right? Just the same way an animal handler will take that animal and move it out of the way, right? That's what we're going to do with the PMP exam. Now, still on this journey, number 11 here, task 11 is plan and manage procurement. You see why I say the 6th edition mantra is still to be recognized? Number 1, finally we get to number 1, execute the project with the urgency required to deliver business value. Finally, but did you see all the things we needed to do? We needed to plan a number of things, and now we can get to task 1. You see why when you read that thing, it doesn't make sense? When you begin to execute the project with urgency, you want to capture the knowledge, ensure that there's a good knowledge transfer. You're going to be involved in managing project issues, managing project changes, managing project artifacts, and of course, managing communications. Now, that's not to say we don't plan communications. We do, but this was the most convenient spot to put it. And finally, engage stakeholders. All of these things need to be understood. Again, we would get into the details. We'll get into each one. For example, execute the project with the urgency required to deliver business value. Now, this is a rather interesting topic. It's such an interesting topic. I had to get my buddy Roy to talk to you a little bit because Roy makes appearances in these sessions. And my buddy Roy, he's got something to tell you about this. So why don't we listen to what my buddy Roy has to tell you about this topic? Let's jump into it.
Yeah, so it's actually a really valuable thing to do, regardless of the process that you're following, to try to find ways of doing things incrementally, not just for gaining feedback, which is a huge value, but also you could potentially get incremental return. So if you can do things in smaller chunks, deliver them, get some kind of return, either knowledge or in funds or whatever it happens to be, delivering things incrementally can be a major benefit for your organization. Now, what we want to try to do is we want to try to build things in what we call an MVP. I want to be clear on, there are three little phrases that we're going to go through: MVP, MMP, and MMF. Acronym soup here, right? But we'll get there. All right, so the intent with this is to discover the minimum amount of functionality we could deliver in order to get some kind of return out of it. And again, return could be happy customers or knowledge or whatever it happens to be. Let's talk about those three different phrases. So first, there's the MVP. That is the minimum viable product. Now, people often get the MVP confused. It's misused all over the place. Quite honestly, I misuse it intentionally because it's such a familiar term. I'll use it regardless of what I'm trying to say because it's just an easy term for people to remember. But MVP is supposed to mean to discover the minimum viable product. It is a discovery. It's a learning exercise of discovering, is this product or this thing that you're delivering, is it a viable thing that people are going to want to make use of? It does not mean you have to build anything. You could just do it as an experiment, doing some surveys, doing whatever it happens to be. That can be your minimum viable product. Just talking with people could be an MVP, just to make sure that you're going the right direction and it's something worthwhile doing, right? It's an experiment. It's a learning exercise. It could include functionality or it may not include functionality. Now, the next one is the MMP. MMP is minimum marketable product. Now, this is different. This is actual functionality. It's the smallest amount of functionality or features or scope, if you will, that you can deliver to get some kind of return. Do you always have to deliver everything in the specification or in the original request to actually get some kind of return out of it? Maybe you can incrementally do it, the minimum chunk of that functionality, in order to get some kind of return. Now, the next one is the MMF. MMF is minimum marketable feature. So MMP is the entire product, something that you are usually used. MMP is usually used when you're doing something greenfield, something brand new, something that is not already existing. You're trying to find discover the smallest amount of stuff that you have to do to deliver that initial product delivery. MMF are the additions to that. What's the minimum set of functionality that you need to do to have a usable chunk of functionality or features or scope or whatever that's actually going to get some kind of return? So you will need to know those terms. MVP in particular is the most widely used, also the most widely misused term. But you get the idea. There are ways of encouraging the minimum. Every one of these has something in common. Minimum, right? The minimum viable, minimum marketable. There's another term actually as well, the minimum business increment. It's the same basic concept, right? It's the smallest amount of stuff that you can do to get some kind of return, right? You get the idea. So we're always focusing on the smallest amount. The PSI, it may be a piece or the whole of the MVP or MMP or whatever, right? It's doing things in small increments and sometimes assembling them to get something larger and more usable. Back to you, Phil.
Awesome stuff from our friend Roy there, and my goodness, talk about alphabet soup, but the truth is it wouldn't be fair to present content to you without going into the full gamut of possibilities. Now you know what MVP is, and PSI and MMF and MMP. They're not just acronyms we throw around. It really means something. Now, in this training, my friends, we're going to cover everything from the Stacy model that you see up there to straight ahead PMBOK stuff. I know some of you are worried about the PMBOK guy. Let's be honest, some of you haven't been in class or in training with a good animal handler. The exam running all over the place, terrorizing you, jumping out of the shadows, rah, and you're running for the hills. Look, come to the training. We're going to get you in ship shape for this exam. Too many people running away from PMBOK guide. Look, you need someone who can show you the 80-20 principle as it applies to this, and it's going to make it so much easier for you. In fact, I'll do you a favor. I'll add some more value to you. Have you watched my PMBOK mainline? Because the PMBOK mainline takes the orange processes on the screen, which are really integration, and they show how these pieces are interwoven. You see, we got just 11-ish on the screen. Well, out of those, did you notice that most of them, the orange ones, are from integration? My PMBOK Guide mainline, if you do a search for it on YouTube, you'll see how integration is at the heart of everything. The charter, the project management plan, the directing and managing of the project work, everything, and how it interweaves into controlling quality and validate scope. I will help you make sense of the guide without you spending hours and hours and hours and hours on end. Don't do it. Now, another piece of this course is this book right here that my buddy Roy and I wrote. It's called PMP Exam Immersion. It's a big old book, but it's value. You see, it's got a lot of questions in it. It's got 35 chapters. I know you're like, what? 35 chapters? We thought the PMBOK Guide was bad. Phil, why did you create this? Now, let me tell you. The PMBOK Guide does not break down your exam into the content outline of people, process, business. This book does that. This book helps you see people, process, business with a question or two at the end of each, sometimes 5 questions per task. Think about that. 2 questions per task, 3 questions per task, 5 questions per task. There's one we even have 6 questions per task. It adds up. So do the multiplier. Just do the multiplier of 35 chapters times 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. It all adds up to give you a very robust assortment of knowledge for your preparation. So if you're struggling with a daily cadence, a rhythm, you need to get this book, you see, and this book comes as part of this course. So go on down to the website right now. If you're just joining us and you're like, what's this? Well, we're talking about PMP Exam Immersion. It's the very, very unique, original 4-hour dump. Now, someone says, Phil, how do you come up with that idea? I had a student who didn't study. And then she calls me the night before and says, Phil, I haven't studied for my exam. What am I going to do? I'm sinking. And I said, do you have 2 hours to spare? I remember I was at Home Depot at that time. This was around the 2013, 2014 time period. And this student had an exam that mattered because things were going to be changed up as usual. So 2 hours of going through every component of the exam. The day after, I was traveling back to UK. I got someone call me as I was heading towards Sky Harbor Airport. It was her yelling and screaming on the phone, I passed! I passed! I thought, well, of course you would. I spent 2 hours of my time yesterday mentoring you. You better have passed. So that's the same model. We take the people, process, business and blow it out so that at the end of it, not only do you understand Agile, but you also understand the predictive stuff. You also, of course, have a very firm grasp on Scrum, and we bring you the latest and the greatest from the 2020 edition of the Scrum Guide, right? We break it down into easy to understand chunks. We show it to you from different angles. The PMI continuum of life cycles, we show that to you. Everything from understanding what a user story is, to understanding how to run a process with intricacy, how to approach a risk. What does it mean to accept a risk? What does it mean to escalate a risk? What does it mean to transfer a risk? All of that stuff, we're going hard into it. Again, my friends, if you're struggling, you need to be in this training. This is a one-of-a-kind training. Not a lot of courses will even cover the full gamut. Talk Let's Do It in 4 hours. It's crazy and it's fun. I enjoy it. You need to be in this training. The final area is the business area, my friends. We left it intact because business is so far-reaching. It touches everything in a number of ways. So we left things intact for this one. Task 1, plan and manage project compliance. Think about compliance, safety compliance, health compliance, monetary compliance, whatever it might be, financial, legal, you name it. You think about it as the PM. Task 2, evaluate and deliver project benefits and value. What exactly is value? Value is described as the net quantifiable benefits that you can add to a customer. So we take a look at task 2 and we understand from a product owner lens or a servant leader lens or a team member lens, how do we relate to evaluating and delivering project benefits and value? You can look at that from so many angles. Task 3, evaluate and address external business environment changes for impact on scope. Remember, this is all about the business. So we're doing boundary spanning, we're doing strategizing, we're taking a look at the impact of the marketplace, and we're being able to pivot accordingly to whatever is happening in the market space. Finally, support organizational change. Very important that you know what impact your project brings to the organization and how the organization impacts your project. And that's business. And of course, again, we go into the details. So I'm going to ask my buddy Roy to talk about this one just at a very high level. We're not going too deep. It's going to be very high level, but we're going to talk about evaluating and delivering project benefits and value. Again, just remember my definition. What is value? Net quantifiable benefits. Net quantifiable benefits. Let's listen to my buddy Roy as he breaks this down.
We're demonstrating every couple of weeks. We're constantly demonstrating. So this process is actually, it's built into Agile. This is what Agile does. So we start out by understanding what the benefits are, and that's why our why statement is there. Now, if you look back at our user stories, that's carried all the way up the chain. There's essentially, you go high up enough up, we do what we call a lean business case. So we're always looking at the value and the benefits that we're going to receive by doing something. Everything we do has some kind of a benefit attached to it. There should be ownership involved. It may be a team that owns it. There might be a feature owner, things like that. There's always accountability built into the process. Now, the next one is really important about measuring. A lot of organizations and traditional approach organizations are bad at this, just as bad as everybody else is. We tend to identify what it is that we would like to measure, but then we don't actually measure it, right? And that's a real problem. So it's about measuring our investments. Are we getting the outcomes we expected? And it's not hard, fast. If you say you're going to make $1 million, did you make $1 million? And if not, you're going to get punished. It's more about, are we moving the needle in the right direction to receive the outcomes that we're expecting? So that's a very important aspect of this process as well. Demonstrating value throughout the whole process, and then, of course, informing our stakeholders are part of that as well. They're part of the demonstration, and they see the progress and the value being delivered at all times. All right, back to you, Phil.
All right, great stuff from our buddy Roy. As always, you get the idea. The concept of benefits is not just for predictive, it's also for Agile. Whenever you see my buddy Roy pop up, just know, hey, it's part of this whole Agile think, right? We're going to be thinking Agile. So Roy's my Agile Think Guy. Whenever it's time for Agile Think, you see him pop up. And don't forget, all throughout this course, we have questions we're going to be asking you. We're going to be asking you questions about every aspect of these tasks, okay? In addition to this, I want you to really remember, you're going to get this 560-something plus page book. You're also going to get access to a learning management system which has quizzes. It has videos. You'll be able to watch multiple activities of project management on that learning system. So things you don't understand. And of course, you'll be able to rewatch this very recording that you attended and others. As you go through the program, more and more stuff gets unlocked, and you've got 30 days. So this is a really great one for you if you're looking to power up towards your final exam date and just be submerged. It's a submerging. In fact, many of our students on this program, they formed a study group and they're studying together and they're coalescing and they're bringing ideas together and they're fighting the crazy PMBOK guide content, the crazy risk content, the crazy scope content. They are fighting it together because that's how to do it, my friends. You cannot do this alone. You shouldn't, right? You should invite your buddy Phil for the ride and anyone else in the class who you find. We're tackling, when I say every knowledge area, trust me, everything from road mapping to iteration planning, you just name it. All of those cryptic pages you find in the guide that you're wondering, what on earth is PMI talking about? I need help. Well, this is help. This is help. So what are you waiting for? It's a measly amount compared to what a lot of companies out there do. A lot of companies out there are charging an arm and a leg, right? Why do you want to even miss this opportunity? hpmexam.com. We're going to take care of you. We're going to answer all your questions. And we're going to help you handle the animal. PMP exam, it's an animal. You've probably discovered it's an animal you got to get a PhD on almost just to understand the exam. My goodness, I was training a kickoff meeting just the other day and I spent a full solid hour just explaining this crazy exam, explaining the type of questions, number of questions. Oh, you could be audited. This is what you do if you're audited. Oh, you're going to take the exam in a test center. They'll use a wand to make sure you aren't carrying anything that's contraband. Oh, you need to sign out before you go for the break. You need to sign back in when you come for the break. Oh, if you're at home and you're speaking, they're almost going to arrest you. It's almost like illegal for you to even mouth words without even making a sound. It's illegal. They're going to stop your exam. You see, there's so many bells and whistles and moving parts of this exam. You need an experienced animal handler, my friends. And that's why I advise you and your friends, anyone you know who is struggling with this, just ask them to go on down to hpmexam.com. Sign up. We've got a killer deal going on right now. It may not last, my friends. You might be one of the last people to squeak in and get this deal before it changes. It's a very ridiculous amount. So what are you waiting for? Jump in there and let's do this. One more aspect before we close. You know, we've talked about various aspects in hybrid, in predictive at a high level, but I want to go a little bit more, just a tiny little bit more, to sensitize someone to the concept of hybrid. If you haven't read hybrid, you need to. Be aware of the types of hybrid projects you could face. Understand the types of scenarios. You could find yourself doing an agile development and a predictive rollout, or sandwich, I call it an agile predictive sub, or you could find yourself doing very heavy agile with a little bit of predictive just in key spots. And then you could find yourself doing predictive with a little bit of agile. This narrative is talked about in the Agile Practice Guide around page 27, 28, 29. Make sure you read it. Read the examples. There's some very tricky examples of agile projects and hybrid projects and what makes them hybrid versus agile and little nuances. And you really need to understand what they're talking about on pages 27, 28, 29, and so on. In closing, the big question I get is, Phil, so I don't need to cram this? I don't need to cram it. And you know what I tell them? I tell my students, when you go to the doctor's office, how would you feel if your doctor was scrambling around in his big old medical book looking for what to do with a spatula, or what to do? Which saw number do I need to use to cut this patient's leg off? Oh my goodness, sorry for the graphic, but you understand what I'm saying. A medical doctor is meant to know the tools of the trade. Personally, I feel as a project management professional, you need to have these things at your fingertips. Why not? It doesn't cost you a dime. It doesn't cost you a cent, not even a half of a cent, right? If you're in Europe, it doesn't cost you a euro. No pounds, no pence. Think about it. You are losing out if you don't know the tricks of the trade and the intricacies of it. Personally, I've been to companies and they're all over the place with their project management. You know what the knowledge areas help me do? The knowledge areas help me find their gaps. The knowledge areas help me. They help me. They help me find where people are disorganized. And you know how much power I have at my fingertips when I go into firms and I advise them and I help grow their PMOs and help grow their people? Do you know how much power I've got on my fingertips? Someone says, well, you've got the pinbook guide. All you need to do is open it and take a look, Phil. No. No. That's not how I'm going to roll. This table, I know it upside down. My test was not on this table. I got certified in 2005. Yes, I train it, but the reason why I have spent time understanding it is because I've seen the value that it brings to companies that I mentor, train, and coach, my friends. Ton of value. Oh my goodness, I cannot tell, and my students alike. I cannot tell you how many students, when they are armed with this deep understanding, I'm not talking about parrot fashion, deep understanding of the processes, they can create. It's again, like if you've been in the world of Agile, we talk about levels of understanding, levels of awareness, right? We talk about the shuhari thing. This is the re-level. You just do. You just know. You don't even need to open a book. It's just natural. It's just second nature. The concept of scope and the multiple dimensions around that discussion of scope, you don't even need a book because it's ingrained. You've not committed it to memory, but you've committed it to be part of your system, part of you. That's the level. That's the level of excellence I would love to see more of. We're not talking about cramming here. It's like you go to see your doctor and he knows where everything is, and the doctor is just telling you stuff and doing tests, and they don't need to open a book no more. Well, what about doing that on a professional level of project management? That's my idea, you see, which is why when you come to the immersion, you're going away with a ton of value. It's going to be life-changing and far-reaching. All right, again, my friends, you want to be part of this awesome adventure. Sunday, some of you are smart. You've already signed up. Some people are still wondering, well, I don't know if I can make the time. Look, you can't make time. You create that space on your calendar. I'm not telling you to make time that you can't. You can't invent time, but you can carve out a space on Sunday. Sunday, that's why I do it on Sunday, right? 3 p.m. Eastern, after all the festivities of the Sunday. I know some people, they're very much into going to church, and that's okay. I understand. It's a Sunday, yeah. Just come on. Some people are like, no, Phil, I can't come. It's a Sunday. But just remember, it was made for you. You were not made for the Sunday. I'm now going to church on you here. Okay, my friends, you get the idea. hpmexam.com. It's your buddy Phil here, signing off and looking forward to seeing you in our immersion training. You take care. Bye for now. And hey, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share with your friends so they are aware of this awesome opportunity. Bye for now.